Yes. This is self-care,
Yeah.
right? This is
Yeah.
part of your self-care regimen.
Yeah.
And, and I've seen, as I'm sure you have, so many different news stories about how alcohol is great for you because I don't even remember what it's supposed to do, but
Oh yeah.
it's
Something about like
but heart
moderate
health.
drinkers are healthier than
Yeah.
abstainers and
Yeah.
all
And
those
then there'll
studies that
be
are crap.
exactly, exactly. And then there's the other studies that show how detrimental it is to your health. But it's just it's it's poison
Yeah.
is what it is.
Yeah. And
It
I
is.
remember
And
going to my psychiatrist and somewhat being oblivious, but also being embarrassed and told her that I was waking up every night at 3 a.m. and that I was so
mm,
stressed and that my job was just, completely overwhelming to me. Of course, did not mention I was drinking a bottle of wine a night. I gave the standard answer of a couple glasses a couple times a
yes.
week, and she
Yes.
prescribed me Ambien. So then I was drinking a bottle of wine a night and taking Ambien, which I don't have to tell you how dangerous that is.
Oh, it's first of all, that makes me go like, yes.
Oh, that you're not the only one in the room? Yeah.
No, just like that sounds fun.
Yeah.
But
Well, I was
not
like, let me
anymore.
solve this problem. I can get
Yes.
completely drunk and then sleep
Yes.
through the night, and it's not a problem.
Right. But no, it is, I mean, that's what the end of my drinking and using was. I was drinking and taking lethal amounts of booze and pills by the end.
Yeah.
And I really felt like I had no choice because there would be no sleep for me otherwise. And I had this, I had a Filofax then. So again, dating myself, this is before smartphones. Maybe smartphones were around. I had a BlackBerry, but that was my calendar. And, I would pour over my calendar at night thinking, what can I cancel? What can I cancel? And if I couldn't cancel anything, I had to get sleep so I could show up for everything. There
Yeah.
was no possibility of not sleeping that night. So,
And it was sleeping. And when I read your memoir, at some point, it was also just not shaking, right? And getting through
yes,
various moments.
yes, the withdrawal was, I mean, the the addiction is a monster, or my addiction is a monster. I think of it as a dragon sleeping in the back of a cage behind me, and
Yeah.
I'm doing everything I can not to wake it up again. It's been sleeping for, a little over 14 years now, so we're trying to, keep that lullaby going. But the withdrawal, the detox that I would go through, and more frequently, the more and more dependent I was on everything, was a juggernaut.
Yeah.
Like it was why I stayed. It is why I didn't get help, which sounds really weird, but I knew that asking for help would mean I'd have to stop, and then the withdrawal would intensify to a point where I didn't know if I would survive.
Yeah.
In fact, I had to be medically detoxed. I could not have just stopped on my own. And I talk about the time where I ran out for a week in the book, and there were horrific consequences to that. So I had to be detoxed so that I
Yeah.
could have a chance of abstaining.
Yeah. And I think that's really important for people to hear because depending on how much you're consuming, whether it's pills or whether it's alcohol, it is incredibly dangerous and sometimes lethal to detox on
Yeah.
your own. So, I mean,
Yes.
there is help available, but not everyone can just go cold turkey and you know, feel like shit and have the shakes and the sweats
Hmm.
and the brutal hangover. It's often you do need medical help and it's dangerous.
Yeah. People die trying
Yes.
to do that. The people
Yeah.
have not made it into the ERs where they belong, and died at home or died on the way.
Well,
So
and because
it's
there's so
yeah.
much judgment around it as well.
Yes.
Like, I've talked to so many women who are like, I don't want to tell my doctor. I don't want people in the
Mhm.
community to know. I am a judge, a doctor, elected official. I am
Yeah.
on the board of a school, my
Mhm.
community's small or big or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. And And that's the other thing that I hope this book helps with is reducing the stigma around what addiction looks like.
Mhm.
And I'm talking addiction to whatever it is, but specifically substances here. And because, like you said, if someone like me, someone who was coming from this place of privilege, who held this status in her community, could fall victim. I don't know if I like that word, but could fall prey to this
Yeah.
to this insidious addiction, then really it could be true for your best friend, or it could be true for you or your parents or your children. And to know that they're not bad people because of that. They're not weak people
Mhm.
because of that. But certainly they are people who, when they ask for it, are deserving of help.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, and compassion.
Yes. Yes.
So, I mean, I think for most of us who end up, having a truly unhealthy relationship with substances, yes, we start taking it for a reason, but there is some reason that it works for us, that
Mm,
we don't have to think about things or deal with things, or we are better able to cope or happier when we're under the influence, at least in the beginning. So
yes.
you titled your memoir Stash, and I know there are a couple reasons for that. Can you tell us
Mm.
about that?
Yes. I mean, picking a title for a book is a really interesting thing. It had maybe 20 titles before this, and they were all too long. They were all like, 2 or 3 sentences. And then I would whittle them down, but nothing quite fit. And I was going over the pages that my agent was my first editor. So, the way it worked is I had sent 30 or so pages actually to Holly Whitaker,
Mm,
who I know is also a guest on your show. And she's a really good friend of mine. And she read them, sent them to her agent, who loved them, signed me that Monday. She got them on a Saturday, signed me that
wow.
Monday. And that was in November of 2020, November 2020. Yeah. And then she asked me, how quickly can you write this? So I was like, I was elated. I was signed by a literary agent. That
Yeah.
was like my dream. And so I got to work and I wrote it, turned it into her final in April. But in between there, I was sending her pages and she was editing. We would always go back and forth on the title during that time. And I was going over that last pass before I sent it to her for the very last time, and just noticed how important my stashes were.
Yeah.
And this is be my stash of booze, which I kept in my rain boots in my closet. My pills, which I kept everywhere. I had little hiding places for my pills, not only in the house, but in the car, in my clothes, in my purses. The, just I had stashes literally everywhere.